Have you ever thought, is this just me when struggling to stay organized, start tasks, or manage time? For those of us over 50, these challenges might not be just aging. They could be ADHD hiding in plain sight for decades. I'm Jamie Shapiro, host of Grandma Has ADHD, and I'm building a community where your experiences matter. Whether you're diagnosed, questioning, or simply curious, you're not alone. Our Facebook group is filled with vibrant, understanding people over 50 who share their stories, strategies, and yes, even their struggles, with plenty of laughter along the way. Ready to find your people? Join our growing Grandma Has ADHD Facebook community. Please like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen and share it with someone who might need to hear they're not alone, because ADHD doesn't have an age limit and neither does understanding yourself better. Together, we're changing the conversation about ADHD after 50. Come be part of the story. Hi, and welcome to a very different episode of Grandma Has ADHD. This is going to be it is the first episode that I'm having that does not deal specifically with ADHD, but was a conversation, or was actually somebody that I met out in San Diego at one of the groups that I do for seniors. And I thought that the information that this guest had was so valuable that it needed to be part of the ADHD conversation. But really, it's something that everybody, seniors, any age, should know. So with that, I am going to introduce Lisa Carroll. She is a native Chicagoan and has worked in the accounting field for 30 years. She has a bachelor's degree in accounting, and she is a certified fraud examiner and a certified bookkeeper. She has owned her firm, Number Crunching, for over 20 years. She's an affiliate member of the San Diego Family Law Bar Association and is the treasurer for the San Diego chapter of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. She began teaching accounting courses at Mira Costa College in January of this year, and she resides in Oceanside for almost 30 years. So welcome, Lisa, to the Grandma Has ADHD podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we were speaking and Lisa was really concerned. She says, I don't have ADHD. And I said, that's okay. I feel like the information that you are going to provide is so relevant to our listeners. And so with that, Lisa, why don't you kind of take it away and let's go back to our conversation this morning.
So there is so much fraud going on, and especially aimed at seniors, that is completely out of control. Just between 2018 and in 2023, the amount of fraud and the amount of money that people have lost has grown exponentially. It went from 500,000 to 3.4 billion. And people are just losing money left and right to this.
Why do you think seniors are more susceptible to this?
Part of it is because they're lonely. If they get a phone call and they might, just be wanting to talk to somebody. Romance scams, friendship scams, those seem to be really prevalent. A Facebook friend scam, but also if there's diminished mental capacity. Mm-hmm. And that can play a big part into some of the confusion and not picking up on the details of the scam itself, not seeing the discrepancies.
And that was actually one of the reasons I specifically wanted to have you on, is because people with ADHD and aging, that they're going to have a lot more issues with executive function. They're not going to notice details. We tend to be, either, in the moment that we're in, or, we're brushed it aside. So share with me, some of what people should look for and how you got involved in this.
So some of the things that I think people need to look for are discrepancies. So let's say you have this friend, this new friend, or this new romantic partner, and it's online. It's online. Maybe you're watching a video or a recording or some kind of FaceTime. What you're really looking for are the discrepancies. And they can be really difficult to spot. One of the reasons I became a fraud examiner is because I'm very detailed and can spot when something's wrong. I see the world in patterns. I see things. And so when there's a mismatch in the pattern, that's when I kind of zero in on and go, I think there's a problem here. But when you are subjected to the friendship scam, the romance scam, even some of these text messages and emails that we seem to all be getting now, unless you can stop and say, I'm going to take a step back here. What they said here doesn't quite match what they said yesterday. Those are the discrepancies that we need to be looking out for.
And that's actually going to be a big challenge for people with ADHD, as I shared with you, because we don't tend to get into the fine details unless it's something that we really are passionate about. And then, we notice everything. Okay. So, as I shared with you, when you have ADHD, your brain is going so quickly, you really don't pay a lot of attention to details. So what advice would you give somebody, again, who maybe falls into that category? Like, how can we notice the discrepancies?
I would say the first thing is stop.
Okay.
Stop and take notes. If Jamie, you and I are having a conversation, I am notorious for taking notes. If it's business or something like that, but I'll take notes. I'll make a note of what somebody's saying. I have a pretty good memory for what people say, which can be very annoying, especially in a family argument, because no, he said this and then she said that, and that's that follow along. But in a friendship or romantic situation, who takes notes?
Right.
But if we're somebody that we know that we have a problem with detail, take a few notes. One of the romance scams that I read about, what the victim noticed was that on this one day, her boyfriend said, "Oh yeah, my son and I, we never fight. We never fight." But then a couple of days later, he's like, "We're always fighting. I can't stand it." There's a discrepancy. And then she started to realize, something's not right here. And she kind of glossed over it, but then she remembered later on. Those are the kinds of things that you want to take a note. Just make a note to yourself that this is something they said. Oftentimes in these romance scams and friendship scams, even though you see a video of a person, so you might see my face, you might see some other handsome face on the screen. You're not actually talking to the same person. It's a deep fake. It is a deep fake. It's a computer-generated face, or they've stolen somebody's identity and plopped it on there. But somebody else is operating. There's like 3 or 4 different people that are operating that face. And that's discrepancies come in, because you might have been talking to scammer A, but the next day, it's his day off. Now you're talking to scammer B.
Wow. It is. I mean, I've almost fallen for some things, like, "Oh, you've been charged this and call us now." We were talking about, I had a client whose grandchildren called and said they were in trouble and that they needed Target gift cards, but please don't tell my parents because I don't want to get in trouble. And, so let's talk a little bit about how that might happen.
So that can happen. And just FYI, if somebody is calling you asking for gift cards, it is likely a fake. It is very likely a fake. Because in our own day-to-day, I would never call you and say, "Jamie, I really need money. Can you do it in a gift card?" We don't ask for that. We don't ask for that. So why are they asking for it? The grandparent scam, the one that we're talking about, it's happened twice in my family. The first time my brother's father-in-law got the phone call, "Grandpa, it's me." Doesn't say the name, just "Grandpa, it's me." And Grandpa makes a guess. "Max, is that you?" "Yes, Grandpa, there was an accident. I'm in jail. I need bail money. Don't tell my parents." Now, thankfully, Dad doesn't follow directions anyhow, and he called my brother, who is an attorney. The scammer was so convincing that even though Max was standing next to my brother during this phone call, they were cooking something. It took 10 full minutes to convince Dad Max was not in jail. Don't send money.
Right.
Sometimes these scammers, they will put another scammer on the phone to pretend to be a lawyer to really validate what they're saying and really get you panicked, get you worked up. And the second they've got money from you, they're going to call back. And now the scam is even bigger. There was a gun in the car. Somebody died. And it's just this huge, fantastic thing. Now, with the scam, the way it's working is that they can spoof your phone so it really does look like it's coming from Max. It does look like it's coming from your Grinch, and they're cloning. My voicemail, Jamie, you and I have called each other. From our voicemail, they can take that few second clip and now clone it to carry on a conversation.
Wow.
So if you our senior, you have ADHD, you're just in a panic. We're going to pick up that phone. We're going to think, oh my God, that's my kid. That's my grandchild. They're in trouble. Stop. Okay, don't let them, they rely on us to panic. Hang up the phone.
Okay, hang up the phone. I'm going to reiterate some of what you're saying because, again, we people with ADHD, sometimes we need to have those things repeated for us. So stop the phone. Hang up. Okay.
Then you call your grandchild. You call your child. Because 99% of the time, they're sitting at their desk, they're at school, they're in the grocery store. They are not in jail.
Mm-hmm. No. So I was going to tell you, I'm actually studying for this certified senior advisor exam, and they were talking about elder fraud and how many times it's not reported because or elder fraud or elder abuse because they're embarrassed. And, so what do we say to those people?
So according to the FBI, they think about 1 in 30 victims report it.
Oh, wow.
So let's say, for example, look at it from this point of view. Jamie, your house gets robbed. Your house gets robbed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're embarrassed because maybe you left the door unlocked or something happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're embarrassed. You're not going to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then your neighbor gets robbed.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't say anything, and then the other neighbor gets robbed.
Mm-hmm.
We're letting that happen by not reporting it.
Right.
And the thing is that the FBI, they need to have that information, local law enforcement, they need to have that information so they can do something. I know that the local law enforcement, they all work really closely with the Elder Justice Task Force here at the FBI. They need the information. The more information they have, the better they can do at catching these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to do this plug. You need to go to ic3.gov and report it.
ic3.gov.
So the letter I, C, and then 3.gov.
Okay. We will put that in the show notes. So if you're driving, I don't want you to stop to write it down. We people with ADHD tend to multitask also. So I want to share with you, we have to walk a fine balance. And again, I'm really gearing this conversation to the ADHD audience. We tend to catastrophize, which means that our brains tend to go down that dark path or down that dark hole, and we can make a situation, even worse, or really act, really are more in fear than the average person. But at the same time, this is, a space that we do need to have some caution. So let's set up, our listeners for success. So if you are out, educating audiences, what do you tell people?
Calm down. Don't let the fraudster control you. They control you through fear and panic and emotion. Mm-hmm. And if we are prone to fear, panic, and emotion, we need to be more aware and go, is this strange person, because maybe you can't see them, maybe that's somebody who's called you randomly, are they putting me in panic? And be aware of those people. Take a physical step back and say, okay, I need to stop. Or phone a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Call me. Call somebody. This sounds kind of fake, or I'm not really sure they're putting me in a panic. What can I do?
Right. You know what? I actually had something like this happen to me recently, and I Googled it because it was odd, and I found that it was a scam. So, I mean, not everybody is going to take the time to do that, but so they take a pause. You don't do anything in that panic mode, you've just been charged, whatever, they're trying to get your information. So you pause. If it's a family member who calls you, then you want to hang up the phone and call them back. And I also really liked the idea, by the way, of taking note in conversations. I think that's great advice for somebody who has ADHD in general, because we tend to be focusing on what it is that we want to say next, that we're not always listening to the conversation because we get into our own thoughts. So that's just a great tip in general when we're having conversations. So if you are communicating with somebody online, you want to take notes and look for inconsistencies. What else should you do if something doesn't feel right, or it's off, or you're getting a bill that you don't, and I've even seen where the email address or, whatever, there's like one letter that's off, and maybe it's a 0 instead of an O, Bank of America, or, something like that.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I get them all the time. And I'm a fraud examiner. I have a high filter on my email. I still get them. So oftentimes these emails where they'll say, hey, thanks for your subscription of this exorbitant amount of this thing that you never bought.
Right.
Fantastic. They're looking for you to call them.
Yep.
And give them your credit card number so they can refund you, and they're going to charge your card. You get those emails, just delete them. You didn't buy anything. They're phishing. They're sending out 30,000 of them in a minute. If one person gives them $5,000, they've just made $5,000 in 1 minute.
Well, that's an issue with ADHD is we tend to subscribe to a lot of things and then we forget what we've subscribed to. Do you have any advice for that?
One of my big things is accounting software. Quicken, QuickBooks, something. Keep a list. Look at your credit cards. What did you sign up for? We're in the day and age of subscriptions, right? I will periodically go through and go, oh, why don't I have that subscription? I have a subscription to this thing. I never watched this thing, or I never used this thing, or, we still have this thing and I don't remember getting this thing. Periodically go through it and double check and see what am I doing? Do I really get that magazine? Do I even go to this gym anymore? Whatever it is, do I buy this skincare product? Whatever it is that we're subscribing to. Keep a list somewhere near your computer, on your refrigerator, wherever that you're going to look, and keep an eye on who am I buying it from? What is it that I'm buying and how much? Keep a list somewhere convenient, but make sure that you're checking it. So I got the email the other day telling me it came from Best Buy. It was like 2 Ys or 2 Us or something goofy, thanking me for my Geek Squad subscription for $500 and my card just deleted. I don't pay attention to them.
So we were sharing before the call that you're not as familiar with ADHD. So I'll tell you another thing. We have a hard time remembering to slow down or to do tasks that bore us, like going through all of our bills and subscriptions and taking a look at that. So, I'm going to encourage audience members, if you are listening, to maybe find a friend and you can do it together or build in a reward or something, because this is one of those tasks that likely is not going to be one of the fun dopamine thrill-seeking tasks. But it is absolutely important information and important that we do. And I do know, have you heard of silver bills before, Lisa?
I have not.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure it's silver bills. I will double check that and put it into the show notes if it is, but it is a bill paying service that really is another set of eyes for seniors. I learned about it when I got into the industry. So in fact, I'm going to take a pause right now. I'm going to look that up and confirm that because I don't want to be giving the wrong information. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to look that up and we're going to come back with our conversation with Lisa Carroll. Ever wondered why helping a loved one declutter feels like speaking different languages? I did, especially with my mom. It wasn't until I founded Silver Linings Transitions, helping San Diego seniors organize and move for over a decade, that I discovered why. We all experience clutter differently. And for those of us with ADHD, it's a whole other world. If you are listening in the San Diego area and feeling stuck with moving, paperwork, photos, or home organization, our team at Silver Linings Transitions gets it. We understand ADHD's unique challenges, and we won't just help you get organized. We'll create sustainable systems that finally stick. Schedule a consultation with our team today at 760-522-1624. That's 760-522-1624, or find us at silverliningstransitions.com. We are back. I am, again, really happy to have Lisa and to be able to provide this information to our audience. While we were on break, I did confirm that the company is silverbills.com, silverbills.com. Lisa, I shared that resource with you, but it was one that I learned about when I first started working with seniors. That is an extra set of eyes that can help people, who are bill paying online. And I will tell you personally, and maybe I'm an oversharer, but I did decide to pay, everything with an auto pay. I'm now using at least a virtual card. But for me, having things set up on auto pay means I'm not going to get those late fees. And that tends to be another problem that people with ADHD tend to have. Sometimes we have really poor credit because we're so involved in the moment that we're in that we don't go back to pay our bills, or we pay them late, so even calendaring something like bill paying or setting up auto pay like I do. Can you share about virtual credit cards? I know that wasn't something we talked about. Are you familiar with how to use those?
So a lot of credit card companies, not all, but a lot of them will send you a virtual card. And sometimes you can just log into your account and look for virtual card. It'll pop up. So that if you are online and you're shopping online, because I admit it, I shop online, I will use a virtual card rather than my own credit card. Mm-hmm. This way, if somebody steals my credit card, I can still get my stuff from online. I don't have to wait that 10 days for my new card and now I'm stuck. I have an alternative. And since so much information is stolen online, if they're going to get anything, it's already kind of triggering for the credit card company that this was the virtual card. So something may have gone wrong and it wasn't your actual credit card.
So, Lisa, what are some other really important pieces of information that we need to convey to our audience?
So if you are involved in, and you won't know that you're involved in the scam part, but you are talking with a romantic partner and you're doing it virtually, or there's a friendship scam, it's coming through Facebook a lot. You get a new friend and they're like, hey, and it's Jessica, how you doing? How are you, Jessica? And you're like, no, I'm Jamie. Oh, my bad. Hey, Jamie, how you doing? I just engaged you in conversation. Mm-hmm. And suddenly this thing rolls into, now you've got this best friend and you're their only friend in the world. And oh, by the way, I need money. But if you're talking to them virtually, and sometimes because it's that deep fake, the stolen image, puppets, like electronic puppet. One of the things to watch for is don't watch their face, watch the background. You notice as you and I are talking, my background's not moving. I've got my autographed pictures up there. I've got other things up there. They're not moving. Mm-hmm. But the AI cameras today can't handle the face and the background. If it was AI, it might generate my face okay, but the background might be wobbling around as I'm moving my head around.
Interesting. Good point. Okay.
And you've also seen me gesturing. I've got 5 fingers. Right now, AI is adding a 6th and 7th finger. Oh, you won't even see their hands. Or if I'm now you can't see my hands, but you notice that my shoulders move. Mm-hmm. It's not picking that up. It might pick up my hand, my arm moving, but not the shoulder. It's just little weird details. Sometimes I have one where the guy, very handsome guy, you're distracted by this very handsome face. He looks up and his pupils become this weird alien misshapen thing. Mm-hmm. And we might think, oh, that was a weird thing the computer just did, and write it off. Mm-hmm. It's weird, funky details that we have to watch out for, but really watch that background and watch for their hands.
Can you share some stories? I know a lot of people in the audience relate better to stories. It's easier for us to follow and engage. Do you have any stories that you might be able to share that will really make the message hit home?
Yeah, the average amount of money that people are losing on these romance scams is about $30,000 per person.
Wow.
And so there was a story that I'd read about where this woman was so in love with this man. And you're the love of my life. What did I do to deserve you? The sun rises and sets because of you, just heavy on the romance. Mm-hmm. And he insisted he couldn't meet with her because he was in Beijing traveling for work. So she actually flew to Beijing, went to the hotel where he was supposedly at. There was no one there by that name because he wasn't there. He was actually he's in Nigeria. That's where the scam originated. Another woman who she was madly in love with him, and she suspected there was something wrong. She thought there was something wrong. Mm-hmm. Something was off. She couldn't quite pinpoint that something was off. She still gave him money and he was gone. So my advice there is, if they're asking for money, and they will always come up with a story, problems with the local police, some kind of tragedy strikes, but somehow you are the only person who can help them. But really, of all the other people in their lives, nobody else can help them out. You new person in their lives are the only person that they can rely on. give me money. The second somebody's asking you for money, ask why.
I would not be giving any money to any online strangers that you've met, even if you've talked for, 6 months. I just wouldn't. They are grooming you, I would imagine. So
What are some other pieces of fastest?
the fastest scam I read about so far was 11 days between her meeting them and him getting money out of her.
That's how fast they work.
wow. It is scary. And like I said, I want to walk the line between, scaring the audience, but also preparing the audience for,
And
how to avoid this.
we're all seem to be getting those text messages that we're saying, this is UPS and we have a package for you, but it can't be
Mhm.
delivered because your zip code's not right. I'm going to tell you right now, if they don't have your zip code right, they don't have your phone number right either. USPS does not contact you like that. Sometimes when you look at the phone number that's sending this message, it's in Singapore.
Mm.
It's like 62, and then the phone number, and they're not even trying to make it look like it's coming.
Mhm.
I mean, I get emails all the time that are a scam. And my favorite one, my absolute favorite one, is the one that tells me that I have erectile dysfunction. I'm going to say right now on this podcast, I do not have erectile
Well,
dysfunction.
that is good to know. We just now had to change the content from PG.
One of those things that when I get these crazy messages or I get text messages that say that there's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that, like I said, you've offered some great advice for people with ADHD, anyone in general, but really for people with ADHD. Any other really important things we need to talk about so that I always hate when I do an interview and I'm like, I should have said that. Anything that I didn't ask you that you want to make sure you've shared?
Yes. I have seen on Facebook, this has happened quite a bit, where, sometimes you'll have a friend who goes, hey, my account was hacked. Don't accept a new friend request. They stole my picture, whatever. I actually had a friend recently who, I guess their account had been hacked at some point and replaced with a generic name that could have been androgynous, Chris or Pat, something that was male or female. And the pictures were very androgynous. They could have been male or female. And some of it's so old that I'm like, I can't remember this person.
Mm-hmm.
And they're messaging me and they're like, oh, don't you remember me? Blah, blah, blah. And we did this together, yada, yada, yada. And they try to insert themselves into your life, but it's not a name I remember. It's not a face I remember. And I'm very good with faces. Can't remember them. And suddenly it's hey, did you get your money from the government? And they're trying to engage you in this conversation.
Right. Well, you know what? That brings up a good thing that I don't know that the audience always knows, that you can adjust your Facebook settings so that what you are posting is friends only. A lot of people really are out there exposing themselves to the world when you definitely can adjust those settings.
Yes. Who's paying attention to every single person's account?
What I do is I look to see how many mutual friends we have, because like I had a cousin that did that recently, and I'm like, we should have more than 2 mutual friends, given that we are related to each other. So any other parting words before we?
My parting words, the biggest one is, if you are scammed, report it. I know there's a lot of fear, especially with seniors, of I can't report it because my kids will find out and they're going to stuff me in a home. There's a huge fear of that. And by the way, having visited several senior communities, I would like to move into some of them, but a lot of them see it as being put away in an asylum or locked up, in the room in a facility or whatever. That's not what it is. But as their children, we need to be aware of how we're talking to our senior relatives. Are we making it so that they're fearful of sharing with us?
That's a good point.
Don't let them be afraid of telling you something. They should be comfortable with that communication, because if you think about it, if your parents just lost $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 and they're too afraid to tell you because of what you might do, you just lost your inheritance.
Right. I had a friend whose mother sent everything to the Publishers Clearinghouse. I mean, those things are they're still happening. So I definitely am glad that we are highlighting that. And again, I think people with ADHD who tend to have other challenges mixed with aging may be even more susceptible. And we tend to carry shame. We're embarrassed because we, aren't the quote unquote neurotypical. And so we're even less likely, I think, to bring up issues or, and a lot of times, I don't know if you're aware of this, Lisa, that there isn't proper screening. And some people are afraid they have dementia and it's actually ADHD. So as I share with the audience, I keep the conversation very real. I just had to pause because I had a barking dog that was distracting. And I had to ask Lisa where we were in the conversation, which was we were talking about, if you don't share with your children and you as an adult child are not open to discussing this with your parents, or you're going to come from a place of judgment, if there is an inheritance, it's going to affect yours. But really, we should be having open conversations. We should always feel, and that is, again, one of the reasons that I do this podcast, just like live and unscrubbed. Well, not live because it is recorded, but we don't edit things out because I feel like it's really important for us to be and live our authentic selves because that just, lends itself to better relationships. And again, when you have ADHD, you already carry a lot of shame, which I am really trying to destigmatize because I think the opposite of that is that we've had these, neurodivergent brains that we've had to make accommodations for ourselves our whole lives. And we should be proud of ourselves because, we have had to sort of MacGyver our way out of situations. But again, Lisa, I had asked you if there are any other tips you want to make sure that you share before we wrap up the conversation. And there are a few things I just want to reiterate as well.
The biggest thing is that everybody makes mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I know the shame, it's a big weight that a lot of people carry. You're not the only one. You're not alone. And if you look at it from this point of view of, I feel embarrassed that I was taken advantage of. Look at it now but how can I help the next person and not be taken advantage of? I'm going to report this. I'm going to make sure that I do everything I can to help law enforcement go after these people, help the next person and see what can happen. I mean, I know in some cases, the FBI has been able to recoup some of the funds, not all the time. I mean, it's hard, but I've seen the pictures of people holding their checks to get them back from the FBI, and it's fantastic. It's a great feeling. And they are out there, law enforcement, like your local law enforcement, the FBI, to really want to help you. So help them to help you and to help the next person.
How can people who are listening find you? Do you only work with people in San Diego? I mean, who do you serve and how can they find you?
So my CFE, my Certified Fraud Examiner license, is actually a global license. So I can go anywhere and be an expert in the court. Not that I'm going to go anywhere and just walk into court and go, here I am, but I can help people. And so people can call me, they can email me, and we can publish all of that information if they've got questions. Great. And I'll do what I can to help them and then direct them over to the local law enforcement and the FBI. But really, I think it's just they need sometimes encouragement just to feel better about going and reporting it. And don't feel like you're alone. You're not alone.
So do you have a website that people should find you on or a phone number?
Yeah, and they are actually working on the website right now. They're redoing it. The current website is just numbercrunchinginc.com.
Great. Okay. I just want to just again reiterate a few things that I paid attention to because I was taking notes while you were talking. And that was that, if there's something that doesn't look right, you need to pause and don't go into that panic mode, but really take a step back. Lisa says you would take a step back physically and see where you can go with that. Go online to look, reach out to a friend to see if it looks right, but you don't need to react immediately. She said that if it's a relationship, like a friendship or an online, romance, you need to be taking notes because you'll see inconsistencies. She talked about watching AI that we can now make it look like somebody in our lives or even duplicate the voice. So you need to really pay attention to what's going on with the background. And again, I want to keep people from catastrophizing and going down that dark hole. But if you do make a mistake, you need to reach out and ask for help and don't be ashamed. One more thing that I realized that I didn't ask you, Lisa, is what is a fraud examiner, just for people who may not know?
So we have to take a pretty tough exam. And we are basically looking at either financial fraud, bribery schemes, anything that's legal related. So every one of us that becomes a CFE, we actually have to have a license in something else and a college degree. So it isn't just, today I kind of feel like becoming a certified fraud examiner. I think I'm going to go do that. It's quite, there's a lot of process to get through it in order to become one. There are private investigators out there who are CFEs, so it's not just accounting related. Law enforcement out there who are CFEs. So there's a lot of different things, but we are recognized like by the court. For example, I'm an expert witness in court because of my background in accounting and then fraud examination. So I'm looking at the detail. I'm combing through things to see, was this fraud? Was this a mistake? Was there fraud at all? Those are the kinds of things that we're looking for. So
great. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. If this helps, it just helps one person. This is great. That is how I feel. And that is why I really wanted to step outside of our normal pattern, the way that we normally do this podcast, because I felt like this was really, really very important information. And I could see where I would have fallen very, very easily. And I have called the number before and then like, this, because I do tend to operate from panic sometimes. Well, thank you so much. If you are listening to this podcast, I hope that you will share it with your friends and family and like and subscribe and join our Facebook community, grandmahasADHD.com. We are going to provide information that you will benefit your life, whether you are a senior with ADHD or somebody who doesn't have ADHD, but just wants to make the rest of your life the best of your life. Thanks so much for listening. The opinions expressed on Grandma Has ADHD podcast are those of our guests and hosts and are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content discussed in this episode is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, mental health professional, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of Grandma Has ADHD do not assume any liability for the content of this podcast. Listen at your own discretion.